Hi, I'm Jillann Gabrielle, but call me Jill. I currently reside in the Chicago and Los Angeles areas, and I'm over 40. That's all I'm admitting to. I'm self-educated in design, and also a second-generation designer. My mother was an educated and experienced portrait and landscape artist and an amateur interior designer. So any formal education that I received was growing up in a design and art-oriented environment. I guess you could say I've been designing my entire life. As a young girl, I used to design and construct all of my own clothing. I definitely am a Renaissance person. I'm interested in and am accomplished in many areas, all of which are in the fine arts or performing arts. Aside from being an interior designer, I'm a professional singer and a vocal technique and performance instructor for 28 years, a cabaret artist, an actor, a host MC, producer, writer, so I'm very experienced in things showbiz, and am very connected to my emotions, which is how I design. Yet I've always had to be very budget conscious, so I know how to get things done fabulously without costing a left lung. I have too much fun during the whole design process, and I love sharing what I'm formulating in my creative mind and heart. I'm also a producer who has produced many live events in the Chicago and now Los Angeles areas. And I'm a collaborator writer who's currently finishing a musical play intended for Broadway and a sitcom, both of which are created as vehicles for my performing talents. I became seriously interested in interior design when my husband and I purchased our first home together back in 1998. That seemed to be my cue to really plan what was going to go in there, not just move a bunch of stuff that we already had. And we were not loaded with money at the time, so I had to be very conservative and learn to search out the bargains. Beauty on a budget. Color, textures, exotic, eclectic, artsy, fun, on a shoestring. That summarizes my approach to design. My personal styles of choice are Moroccan, Asian, Indian, Middle Eastern, African animal prints and skins as an accent, traditional, Victorian, Empire, among others. And I'm wild about an eclectic approach, using pieces that I love from many different styles that seem to just work together, like art. I've been told more than once that my designs are art, whatever that is. I take it to be a compliment. And art to me means that it is honest and inspired, which is how I operate while I'm designing, acting, hosting, writing, and singing in the rain. I become extremely passionate about a piece that I'm wild about, or an oriental rug that I'm in love with, and usually design the entire room spinning off the one piece. I love interior design because I'm a person who's very affected by my environment. Being an interior designer gives me the opportunity to create a beautiful space that I can enjoy, and hopefully others will enjoy it too. You might say I'm a compulsive designer. I design instead of overeating, drinking, gambling, or having too much sex. Is there such a thing? I do it because it makes me feel good. And now for one of my favorite designs. This is our living room in our Chicago townhome, and I inherited a lot of things from my family when both my mother and my grandmother died in about 7 years of each other. It was like Sophie's choice. There were so many beautiful things. I had to sell about 80% of it. But I kept what I thought were really wonderful pieces, and I redid them for my taste now. The pride and joy from that era, 40s, 50s,
are these chairs. They were redone twice before, but I did them in this cream colored leather, which I'm just in love with. And of course, I always like to have a throw on it and a pillow. This Karastan rug, you're not going to guess what I paid for it. $200. It's a $4,000 rug. I kept that and these two beautiful chairs. And one of my accents is brass. So I have my favorite food dogs, my brass lamps. And I mentioned that my mother was a portrait artist. Well, this was one of her early pieces, and that's Mary Martin and Yul Brynner in Lute Song. I love the frame, and it just means so much because it's like having my mother with me there. This is my grandmother's favorite desk and her chair. This was my grandmother's chaise lounge, but I had it done years ago. Then my favorite lamp of all time, and this beautiful Chinese table. This other table was in my family forever. This was my mother's favorite lamp. It is a peacock. My mother was wild about dogs. And I always like to have a ceiling fan. I always think it finishes the room off. We have a couple of accents. We have red. We have brass. Milk chocolate brown walls. And part of our brass accent here is we have a brass crucifix that was my mother's pride and joy. Middle Eastern or Turkish, this vase, a little Chinese garden seat. I use garden seats a lot as little side tables. Another accent I have in the room is the blue and white porcelain. This grandfather's clock was my mother's pride and joy, and the clock is sort of the center of the room opposite the fireplace. So we have a lot of feng shui going on here. We have matching chairs, we have matching andirons on the fire. The room is oddly shaped, so we use that section over there to put the chaise. I always use a lot of ambient lighting. Don't like carpeting, don't like curtains. You can do so much more with blinds. Always have picture lights, that's part of ambient lighting. This little Indian cabinet really is a stunning piece. This was one of my favorite pieces that my mom had, like a Turkish teapot. Make me feel like I have my family here with me in the room. I always have one or more Tiffany lamps in the room. I always have Oriental rugs. Bargains are out there. You just have to spend time looking for them and enjoy the process. I always have a lot of flower arrangements in the room, at least one in every room. You know, even though they're fake, they still bring a lot of warmth and light and springtime and summertime in the room, even though it's winter and we have a fire. I would love to be on HGTV Design Star because I'm a compulsive designer, as I said earlier, and I can't help myself. And I'm great at it, I must admit. I'm a master communicator, instructor, host, and a natural comedian with lots of experience as a professional host. I also have a drama queen personality, and I'm known in the biz as an uber diva, which would make for great entertainment on the screen. I love interior design because I'm a person who's very infected. Okay.